From the dense, untamed jungles of the Amazon to the frozen wilds of Alaska, nature has a way of reminding us who's really in charge. In this video, we're diving into some of the most spine-chilling, jaw-dropping, and downright terrifying encounters between humans and wild animals. Stories where the great outdoors turned into a real-life horror movie. Imagine you're on a road trip, taking in the breathtaking beauty of British Columbia, when you stumble upon the Liard River Hot Springs Provincial Park, a hidden gem tucked away in the boreal forest. It's the perfect spot to unwind in nature's very own hot tub. But for one unlucky family, what was supposed to be a peaceful pit stop turned into a real-life horror movie. On August 14, 1997, Patty McConnell, a Texas mom road tripping to Alaska with her kids, decided to take a much-needed break at the hot springs. The scenery was stunning, the water was warm, and the vibe was all about relaxation. Wanting to escape the crowds, Patty and her 13-year-old son Kelly wandered down a boardwalk, climbed a set of stairs, and found a quieter pool. Everything was perfect until it wasn't. Out of nowhere, a rustling in the bushes shattered the peace. Patty turned, and there it was, a massive black bear staring right at her. Before she could even react, the bear charged. In an instant, it tackled Patty, sinking its claws and teeth into her. Her terrified screams echoed through the forest as she fought for her life. Now, most 13-year-olds would probably freeze in terror, but not Kelly. This kid was made of pure courage. Grabbing the nearest tree branch, he started whacking the bear with everything he had. When that didn't work, he even kicked the bear in the face, a move that was as bold as it was risky. But the bear, furious and relentless, turned its attention to Kelly. With one powerful swipe, it clawed his neck, grabbed him by the waist, and hurled him to the ground like a rag doll. The chaos caught the attention of other visitors, including Ray Kitchen, a man who didn't hesitate to jump in and try to save the family. He fought with everything he had, but the bear's sheer strength was too much. In the struggle, the bear knocked Ray off the boardwalk, sending both of them tumbling down a hillside. Tragically, Ray didn't make it. The bear delivered fatal wounds to his neck, taking his life in the process. As panic spread through the park, another man tried to help and was critically injured in the attempt. It wasn't until two bystanders arrived with hunting rifles that the nightmare finally ended. They shot and killed the bear, but by then, the damage was done. Patty, despite her valiant effort to protect her son, didn't survive. Her bravery, however, was undeniable. Her final moments were spent fighting for Kelly. Miraculously, Kelly survived, though severely injured. His determination to battle a full-grown black bear and his incredible will to live turned him into a real-life legend. As for Ray Kitchen, his selflessness left a deep impact on everyone who heard his story. He ran toward danger without a second thought, an act of true heroism that cost him his life but saved others. The attack sent shockwaves through the region, sparking conversations about wildlife safety and the unpredictable dangers of nature. Wildlife officials later determined that the bear was emaciated and unusually aggressive, likely attacking out of pure desperation due to hunger or illness. Today, the Liard River Hot Springs is still a beloved destination, but the events of that tragic day haven't been forgotten. Warning signs about bear activity now stand as stark reminders of what happened, urging visitors to stay alert and respect the wild. Nature may be beautiful, but it doesn't play by our rules. And sometimes even the most peaceful oasis can turn into a battleground in the blink of an eye. Picture this. It's March 5th, 2019, in the sleepy little village of Z, tucked away in the eastern Czech Republic, the kind of place where the loudest sounds are a rooster crowing or a tractor puttering along. That is, until Mikhail Prek arrived. Mikhail wasn't your average villager. At 34, he had gained a reputation, and not in a good way. His hobby wasn't something simple like fishing or woodworking. No, he had a passion that made people question his sanity, keeping lions. Not just one, but two, a male and a lioness. Why? No one knows. Maybe he watched The Lion King one too many times or just wanted to stand out. But owning these massive predators wasn't enough for him. He had bigger plans. He wanted to breed them. In his backyard, his enclosures, if you could even call them that, were more of a chaotic DIY project than a secure habitat. They were hastily thrown together, probably held up by sheer willpower. The problem? He had no permits. Authorities fined him, neighbors complained, yet Michael ignored them all. To him, these lions weren't just exotic pets, they were family. Big, 400-pound clawed and fanged family. But keeping lions wasn't his only eccentricity. He also walked them. Imagine strolling through a quiet village and seeing a man casually walking a lion on a leash like it's a golden retriever. What could possibly go wrong? Well, everything. One infamous incident involved a cyclist who collided with the lioness during one of these bizarre outings. He ended up in the hospital. Authorities, in an absurd twist, classified it as a traffic accident. For the villagers, however, it was just another terrifying reminder of the situation they were stuck in. Years passed with no resolution. The authorities wanted the lions removed, but legal loopholes and a lack of proper wildlife sanctuaries left them powerless. Meanwhile, Mikhail refused to cooperate. He blocked officials from accessing his property and stubbornly defended his lions. The villagers lived in constant fear, trapped in an unending standoff. Then came the morning of March 5th, 2019. At around 7 a.m., Mikhail's father made a horrifying discovery. His son's lifeless body was inside the male lion's cage. Even more disturbing, the door was locked from the inside. Why did Mikhail enter the enclosure? No one knows. What was clear was that authorities now had an even bigger problem. Mikhail's body was in a cage with two very alive, very dangerous lions. And here's the thing about lions. They're not oversized house cats. They are apex predators, built for the kill. No one was about to risk being the next victim. In the end, there was only one solution. Authorities had to shoot both lions to secure the scene. If that wasn't tragic enough, it was later discovered that the lioness was pregnant. Mikhail's shocking death put an abrupt end to his bizarre passion, but for the villagers it also brought relief. For years, they had lived in fear, unable to do anything about the man keeping deadly predators just beyond their fences. Now, at last, the nightmare was over. In the aftermath, the mayor of Z expressed hope that this tragedy would finally lead to stricter laws on keeping dangerous animals. And indeed, the Czech government began reassessing its wildlife regulations. The country had long been a hub for illegal wildlife smuggling, a reputation it could no longer afford to ignore. Michael Preck's story serves as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of what happens when humans blur the lines between domesticity and the wild. Lions belong in the savannah, not in someone's backyard. A split-second decision, a predator lurking in the shadows. A family outing turned into a nightmare. On a scorching July day in 2016, what was supposed to be an exciting trip to Beijing's Battling Wildlife Park became the stuff of horror movies. This park, famous for its drive-through safari, lets visitors see majestic Siberian tigers up close, all from the supposed safety of their cars. But as it turns out, supposed safety only applies if you follow the rules. One tiny lapse, one moment of carelessness, and suddenly you're no longer a spectator. You're on the menu. It all started with a heated argument inside a car. Tensions were rising between a woman named Xiao and her family. Frustrated and likely wanting to make a point, she did something no one could have imagined. She opened the car door. Yes, in the middle of a tiger enclosure. Maybe she thought she was just stepping out for a breath of fresh air. Maybe she wasn't thinking at all. But the thing about tigers, they don't do timeouts. Before she could even process her mistake, the jungle came alive. From the shadows, a massive Siberian tiger launched itself at her with terrifying speed. In a flash, the 400-pound predator clamped its jaws onto her and began dragging her away. Screams erupted. Panic exploded inside the vehicle. Her family, frozen in horror, had only seconds to react. That's when Xiao's mother, in a desperate act of heroism, did what any mother would do. She ran straight toward the danger, but nature is ruthless. A second tiger, bigger, faster, and even more ferocious than the first, attacked. The impact was brutal. The beast took her down with a force so powerful it sent shivers through anyone who watched the footage later. She had no chance. Unlike Xiao, she wouldn't make it out alive. Every horrifying second was caught on security cameras. The footage, which eventually leaked online, left the world in shock. Viewers watched in horror as the tigers disappeared into the underbrush with their victims. By the time park officials and emergency responders arrived, the nightmare was over. Xiao, incredibly, survived. Severely injured, but alive. Her mother, tragically, did not. Her courageous attempt to save her daughter had cost her everything. The incident sparked immediate outrage and a flood of questions. The park had clear rules. Stay inside your vehicle. Keep the windows up. Lock the doors. Yet, Xiao later claimed she had no idea what she had signed before entering. According to her, she thought it was just a standard form, not a serious waiver warning about the lurking danger. Making matters worse, she accused the park of failing to respond in time. She insisted a park official in a nearby vehicle should have stepped in to help. That accusation sent shockwaves through China, with many pointing fingers at both the park's security measures and Xiao's own reckless mistake. But the real lesson? Mother Nature doesn't care about misunderstandings. Siberian tigers are apex predators. They're designed to hunt, overpower, and kill prey much larger than themselves. Once they lock onto a target, there's no reasoning, no mercy, only raw, primal instinct. A single misstep, a fatal moment of misjudgment, a mother who sacrificed herself in the ultimate act of love. Today, the tiger enclosure at Bottling Wildlife Park remains open, but those who visit now do so with a renewed sense of caution, because if this tragedy proved anything, it's that in the wild, the rules aren't suggestions. And one wrong move, that's the difference between watching the tigers and becoming the main event. In the summer of 2011, a group of British teenagers set off on what was supposed to be the adventure of a lifetime, an epic, month-long Arctic expedition in the frozen wilderness of Svalbard, Norway. Organized by the British Schools Exploring Society, BSES, this trip promised a thrilling mix of science, survival, and snow. The teens were eager to witness the majestic polar bear in its natural habitat, study the effects of climate change, and make unforgettable memories. Unfortunately, what started as an awe-inspiring expedition quickly spiraled into a nightmare, one that tragically cost the life of 17-year-old Horatio Chappell, a bright young man with dreams of becoming a doctor. The group, consisting of 80 students, arrived in Svalbard filled with excitement. They were reassured by the trip organizers that strict safety measures were in place to keep them protected in one of the world's most extreme environments. Tripwires equipped with small explosive mines were set up around their campsite to deter wildlife, pen flares were on hand to scare off any unwanted visitors, and an adult leader carried a firearm, just in case. But as it turned out, those safety precautions weren't quite as foolproof as they seemed. Shortly after setting up camp, the group discovered some major problems with their equipment. First, there weren't enough pen flares to go around, leaving many students without a crucial line of defense. Then, they realized that some of the tripwires, the ones meant to detect and scare away approaching bears, were either faulty or improperly set up. To top it off, the group leader's firearm wasn't exactly modern. It was an old rifle, far from ideal for a life-or-death emergency. And then, in the early hours of August 5th, the worst-case scenario became a horrifying reality. A starving polar bear, likely struggling to find food due to the rapidly changing Arctic ecosystem, wandered into the campsite. Driven by desperation, it ignored its usual instinct to avoid humans, and instead saw an easy meal. The bear entered the camp undetected, creeping toward the tents where the teenagers were fast asleep. Then, all hell broke loose. The bear tore into Horatio's tent, launching a frenzied attack. One of his companions was bitten on the head before the bear turned its focus on Horatio. In the chaos, Horatio was dragged from the tent and brutally mauled while his terrified friends scrambled for safety. The entire camp erupted in panic. Screams echoed across the icy landscape as the bear continued its rampage, injuring 4 other members of the expedition, including 2 adult leaders who desperately tried to stop the attack. But their outdated rifle wasn't exactly cooperating. They struggled to fire, desperately trying to take down the beast. After a tense and terrifying struggle, they finally managed to shoot and kill the bear, but it was too late. Horatio was gone. The news of the tragedy sent shockwaves across the world, raising serious questions about the safety protocols of such high-risk expeditions. A trip designed to inspire and educate had instead exposed the fatal consequences of poor planning. Faulty equipment, insufficient training, and an unreliable firearm had left the group vulnerable to one of nature's most powerful predators. For Horatio's family and friends, the loss was unimaginable. He was a bright, compassionate young man on the verge of adulthood, eager to make a difference in the world. His death became a heartbreaking reminder of the unpredictability of nature and the immense responsibility required when venturing into its domain. Horatio's story remains a chilling chapter in the history of exploration, a reminder that while the wilderness is breathtakingly beautiful, it is also ruthlessly unforgiving. Those who knew him continue to honor his memory, remembering his adventurous spirit and love for discovery. Some stories are so unbelievable they sound like something out of a movie. This is one of them. It was a regular Sunday in October 2009, or at least, that's how it started. The heroine of our tale? Kellyanne Walls, a 37-year-old mom from Ross Township, Pennsylvania. She wasn't just an ordinary animal lover. Nope. While most people settle for a dog, maybe a cat or two, Kellyanne went all in. Think lions, tigers, cougars, and a 350-pound black bear named Teddy. For nearly a decade, Teddy wasn't just a pet, he was part of the family. Kellyanne didn't see him as a wild animal. To her, he was just a big, furry buddy who happened to live in a cage out back, and she had cleaned that cage 1,000 times without a single problem. But as fate would have it, October 4th was the day everything changed. That afternoon, Kellyanne grabbed some dog food, her usual trick to keep Teddy occupied while she cleaned. "Here you go, big guy," she might have said, tossing the food to one side of the enclosure. Normally, that was enough to keep him busy. Maybe it was the chill in the air. Maybe it was the fact that hibernation season was around the corner. Or maybe, just maybe, Teddy finally remembered that he was, in fact, a bear. Whatever the reason, something inside him snapped. As Kellyanne stepped into the cage like she had countless times before, Teddy attacked. The scene was nothing short of chaos. Kellyanne's children, frozen in horror, saw the unthinkable unfolding before their eyes. Their mother was in danger, and they did the only thing they could. They ran. As fast as their legs could carry them, they sprinted to their neighbor's house. Enter Scott Caston, local school teacher. When he opened the door to find 2 panicked kids shouting about a bear, he figured a wild one had wandered into town. Without hesitation, he grabbed his .357 caliber handgun and ran toward the Walls property. What he saw when he got there was far worse than he could have imagined. Teddy was still on the attack. Kellyanne lay unconscious, and the bear wasn't done yet. When Teddy turned his attention towards Scott, the neighbor had a choice: stand there and become the bear's next target or act fast. Instinct kicked in. One shot. The bullet struck Teddy, killing him instantly. With the bear down, Scott rushed to Kellyanne's side and called for help, but it was too late. By the time paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could do. Kellyanne was gone. The news rocked the entire community. She had been more than just an animal lover. She was a gentle, kind-hearted woman who had poured her soul into caring for the creatures she adored. Her funeral was filled with friends, neighbors, and heartbroken family members who couldn't believe such a tragedy had unfolded right in their quiet town. But as the mourning continued, so did the questions. Turns out there were warning signs. For starters, Michael Walls, Kellyanne's husband, had let his permits for keeping exotic animals expire over a year earlier. While officials had previously inspected the enclosures and found no safety issues, the Pennsylvania Game Commission had always made one thing clear: wild animals, no matter how loved, can never be truly tamed. And so, Kellyanne's story became a bittersweet lesson. Her passion for animals was undeniable. Her love for Teddy was real. But in the end, love wasn't enough to override nature's instincts.